Welcome to This Week in East Brunswick, the town's own news and information program. Tonight we'll start off with a special news conference held by Mayor William Fox last Tuesday, announcing he will not run for mayor of East Brunswick for a fourth term. And we'll have an update on school news with Amy Fisher. Our regular features will include constitutional comments, this week with Prahba Sucamaren. On Consumer Aware, Adrian Eisner will tell us about the township's cable franchise renewal. And we'll close with our Township Council review. But first, here's a look at programming next week here on Cable Channel 8. At 10 a.m. on Monday, exercise with Lenore Kulik on Look Great, Feel Great. At 10:30, it's Stories from the Library for preschoolers. Also Monday at 11:30, we'll recast a special hour-long Target on Martin Luther King Jr. called King Remembered. At 7 p.m. Tuesday evening, the City of Beverly Hills presents In Print with host Michael Cart. At 7:30 Tuesday night, Ken Shalhoub discusses children's ear infections on Let's Talk Health. At 8 p.m., Paul Hansen hosts You and Your Money, followed at 8:30 by Business Bylines. This month, host John Runyon discusses business and traffic on Route 18 with his guest, Councilman Bill Kirk. Wednesday at 7:30 p.m., it's Spotlight on Education, focusing on science in our secondary schools, followed at 8 p.m. with Stuart Davis and 18 growing up in East Brunswick. We'll be back Thursday evening at 7 and 8 p.m. with an all-new This Week in East Brunswick. And be sure to check the Channel 8 program guide for repeats of all the shows just mentioned. This past Tuesday, Mayor William Fox called for a special news conference to announce he has no intentions for running for a fourth term as mayor of East Brunswick. Here's his speech in its entirety.
Good afternoon. I have a prepared statement which I'm going to read, and I have copies available for those who want it. On my right is Michael Baker, who is the chairman of the Democratic Organization in East Brunswick, and Esther Novak, who is my wife. 12 years ago, when I became mayor of East Brunswick, I established an agenda of issues to be addressed for our community. Major among them were the adoption and implementation of a comprehensive master plan, along with the staff to properly manage and complete it, improving the amenities offered to the community, and dealing with the infrastructure deficiencies which still remained after the tremendous growth which had occurred in East Brunswick from the early 50s through the early 70s. In 1976, we did adopt a comprehensive master plan, and the Township Council both endorsed it and adopted the ordinances which implemented it. Over the next few years, detailed amendments covering the economic health of the community, water supply and distribution needs, historic preservation, the town green, recreation and parks were developed and implemented to one degree or another. In parallel with these activities, the Department of Planning and Community Development was created and staffed to provide the professional support necessary to develop and carry out the plans. Today, we have an in-house planning and community development capability which is second to none in the state of New Jersey. 12 years ago, our library was a relatively small operation in the basement of the municipal building. We didn't have a museum. There was no home for our local theatrical group, the Community Players. There was no municipally sponsored senior citizen program or facility, and our park system was not adequate to meet the recreational needs of our citizens. In 1977, I doubled the budget of the library to permit it to take full advantage of the new building which had been constructed under the leadership of the prior administration. Today, the East Brunswick Library is considered by many observers to be the best public library in New Jersey. Today, we have the East Brunswick Museum in the Historic District, and the Community Players are housed in Playhouse 22 and playing to sell-out audiences. We have a senior citizen program and facility which are also second to none in the state. Over the past 12 years, we've acquired several hundred acres of new parkland and made significant improvements to facilities in both new and existing parks. 12 years ago, there were less than 500 commuter parking spaces available for our residents. There are now approximately 1,400 spaces available, and starting in June 1988, there will be over 2,000 spaces, primarily for East Brunswick residents. Most importantly, not one penny of local tax dollars has been expended in bringing about this increase in the number of spaces. Infrastructure improvements have been numerous and have both resolved past deficiencies and positioned us for the future. The most important improvement has been in water. A master plan for water supply and distribution was adopted in 1978, laying out in detail what needed to be done to have a reliable system of distribution and water supply adequate for now and into the 21st century. This plan has and is being implemented on schedule. Many improvements have been made to the distribution system, and the recently completed connection to the Middlesex Water Company ensures our supply of water. Barring catastrophic failure of some part of the water system, East Brunswick should never again experience a water emergency. Beyond the water system, the Public Works Center, completed in 1980, provides an adequate base for provision of road repair, water maintenance, snow removal, and other public services. The annual road resurfacing program ensures that our streets and roads are in good shape. The annual drainage improvement program, which I initiated in 1976, has solved many long-standing major and minor drainage problems throughout the community. Although far from being completely done, there have also been numerous road and intersection improvements over the past 12 years. The most visible and important, of course, is the new Riders Lane. The concept of the road dates back to the late 60s, so I can't claim credit for the idea. I can claim credit for making it happen. It's the first new municipal or county road in East Brunswick in nearly 100 years. While I know there are various criticisms of it, mostly that it costs too much, it has achieved its purpose, which was to dramatically improve the flow of traffic through the center of our community. In my opinion, the cost is well worth it. It is a major step in resolving people's biggest complaint, traffic congestion. When the county projects to widen Cranberry Road, the northern end of Riders Lane, and the state project on Route 18 at Route 1 are completed over the next 2 years, we will have made significant progress in improving the flow of traffic generally. The economic infrastructure of East Brunswick has not been neglected. I, the township councils who've served with me, and the professional staff have worked hard to plan for economic growth, understand the needs and concerns of the business community, and encourage the location of commercial and industrial facilities in East Brunswick, both to stabilize our employment base and provide a non-residential source of real estate taxes. The major accomplishment in this arena is the location of the Tower Center complex here. In competition with cities and towns all over the country, and 18 in New Jersey alone, East Brunswick was selected. While I recognize that there are various objections to the complex, I continue to believe that it is the right thing for East Brunswick. In the years after it is completed, I believe it will come to be a source of pride for the community, and the tax revenue it generates will be much appreciated. Along with pride in these physical and programmatic accomplishments, I feel I can take great pride and satisfaction in the nature of my service to the community. Mine has been an inclusionary administration, inviting interested residents to take part wherever possible. From about 150 residents serving on boards and advisory groups in 1975, that number has been increased to about 300 today. Mine has been an open administration, making the vital information about government issues in East Brunswick as widely available as possible by placing it in the library and giving it to the media. I and those who serve with me have placed the highest value on integrity and honesty in government. I've been blessed in being able to attract and retain some of the finest professionals in government in New Jersey. Almost without exception, our professional staff has consistently been recognized by peers as having outstanding ability, and often has been chosen for leadership positions in their professional associations. It is my hope that I have established a lasting tradition of good, professional, and honest government in East Brunswick. Perhaps most importantly, I've cared about East Brunswick and its people. While the position of mayor is nominally part-time, I've always viewed it as a 24-hour-per-day, 7-day-a-week job. Although the position does not have the power to control every event in the community, I felt every event personally. Every time a home is burned or a fatal accident has occurred, it's been a personal tragedy for me, as well as those involved. While I've felt a tremendous sense of personal accomplishment with the successes each time municipal government has failed to serve people in the manner which they would like to be served, I've felt a personal failure. I felt a personal responsibility to be available to represent local government at as many of the public events in the life of the community as possible. At the end of my current term in December of this year, I will have been mayor 13.5 years. I've thoroughly enjoyed serving the people of my community. I feel a deep and sincere love for this place and its people. During my time in office, I've come to know hundreds of people I would not otherwise have known, and met literally thousands more. I've learned a lot that I would not otherwise know. It's a long time, however, to maintain the level of commitment and intensity which I believe necessary to do a good job. It's meant giving up most of my personal interests as well as control of my time. In 1989, it will be time for someone else to take up the challenge. When I decided to run for re-election in 1984, I also decided and made a commitment to my family that I would not seek re-election in 1988. Accordingly, I'm announcing today that I do not intend to seek the Democratic nomination nor election as mayor in 1988. I'm ready to devote my energies and attention to other things, and I'm making this decision known at this time in order to allow ample opportunity for all who might be interested in the nomination to come forward and seek the support of the East Brunswick Democratic Party. I want to emphasize that this announcement is not a resignation in place. Although I will not be seeking re-election, I fully intend to carry out my duties as mayor with the same enthusiasm, dedication, vigor, and level of participation over the next 12 months as I have in the past. Thank you, and I'll entertain any questions now from the press.
What advice do you have for your successor, whoever it is?
Oh, goodness. Could you elaborate?
Well, in terms of, I know that, as you know, I'm new to the history here, but I know that the redevelopment of Route 18 was also one of your projects, and that is in a nebulous stage right now. Where do you think the township should go on those terms, for instance?
Well, I think the issues, the principal issue that's going to confront the township in the next 2 to 6 year time frame is going to be different from what has been in the immediate past. In the immediate past, there's been great concern over growth, although objectively that's been relatively well controlled. In the immediate future and beyond, I think the concern is going to be over the lack of growth and therefore the lack of additions to the rateable base. It is going to become more and more difficult to tax people to support municipal government in East Brunswick. We have essentially run out of existing land that's zoned for industry or non-residential uses. The only real opportunity we have is going to be in the redevelopment of Route 18. And the community, I think, is going to have to make a decision to have the intestinal fortitude to do what it takes to redevelop an area such as that. In the past, we've made a number of attempts. They've been aborted because of objections from the business community, because it was believed that it was an intrusion into people's, an unwarranted intrusion of government into people's businesses. But the fact is that we have many areas of Route 18 that are underutilized and that are not generating the tax dollars that they might were they redeveloped. Yes.
If you wouldn't mind speaking into my microphone.
Sure.
What prompted you to not run again, although I understand you said you made a commitment to your family not to?
Well, it's been a long time. I think that people who haven't done it probably can't appreciate the amount of energy and the level of commitment it takes to do it. And fundamentally, it's a question of having done that for a long time and feeling that it's time for someone else to take on that responsibility.
Where are you going to focus most of your energies for the rest of the year?
Well, there are a number of issues that we're dealing with at the moment. Of course, we have the annual budget cycle, which is just starting. The question of the MCUA's acquisition and operation of the Edgeboro landfill has to be dealt with. There are a number of road improvements and other things underway, which I expect to be devoting a lot of attention to.
What effect did your tense relationship with the council, how did that play in this decision? I know that there's been a libel suit and some other legal actions between you and Republicans in this township. Does that play into your decision?
Well, there's a two-part answer to that. Certainly, there are not many people who would voluntarily go through the 1984 campaign again, being the subject of what was done there. But the second part of the answer is that my relationship with the existing township council over the last year, I think, has been reasonably constructive. We obviously have our political differences, but there has been the ability to arrive at a working relationship, and that has not been a factor at all.
I'll ask one more.
Okay.
I know that when you came into office, you sat next to 5 Democrats. You're leaving, and there are 5 Republicans. How do you explain the shift in voter attitude in this township?
It's a difficult question to answer. I think that my assessment of what has been happening over New Jersey in the recent past is that people, despite the good times in New Jersey, while they appreciate being employed and they appreciate their businesses doing well, people in New Jersey are also upset with the changes that brings. The additional traffic, the fact that the shopping centers are always crowded. And if you look across the state, what you will find is that incumbents have not done real well over the last couple of elections. I have talked to people all over the state, and the feelings of people in their communities tend to be the same. That is, they're not happy with what's going on now, and they're going to keep voting for other people until they feel they get it right. And I, with all due respect to the people on the council, I believe that incumbents, no matter of what party at this particular time, are going to have a difficult time in getting elected or reelected. So that I think that's at the root of it. I think that it's clear that the Democratic Party in East Brunswick has weakened over the past few years, that it's got to be in a rebuilding stage, and it is, and that those of us who've been involved have tended to enjoy government much more than politics. And as it turns out, you can't have good government if you're not able, if you feel that you can bring good government to things, you have to get elected first. And so the political apparatus and structure is a very important part of being involved in public life. Anything else? Okay. Thank all of you who are not in the press for coming. I see.
And now for some school news with Information Officer Amy Fisher.
Hi, I'm Amy Fisher. I'm the Information Officer for the school district. Today I have announcements about 2 great events in our schools. First, we're all very proud that Central School has been nominated to the United States Department of Education for consideration in the Elementary School Recognition Program. In that program, outstanding elementary schools throughout the country are recognized and identified by the Secretary of Education. Central School first filed its application, which was a very long 44 pages, to the State Department of Education in November, and last week the Commissioner of Education, Dr. Cooperman, notified our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Sweeney, that Central Schools has been forwarded to the United States Department of Ed. And the next step will be a review by a national panel, which will select schools for a site visit. And the schools that are considered the best after those visits will be honored in the program. So we're hoping, and we're pretty certain, that Central School will go on and eventually be chosen for the national award. Next, we have some of our high school students that we're also very proud of. These are, there were 19 students from an IPPL class, that's the Institute for Political and Legal Education, that's taught by John Calamano at East Brunswick High School. They went off to Middlesex County College to participate in the national competition on the bicentennial of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and they emerged from the competition as the winners in the 12th Congressional District. Today, our Social Studies Supervisor, Bob Flood, is here with me. He also was the coordinator in our congressional district, and he's going to tell us about the background of the competition. So, hi, Bob.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
Good.
The competition is the outgrowth of a funding by Congress to the tune of $2 million. The Center for Civic Education in California put together a test and a course of study The course of study was studied by our IPPL students and some of our junior high school students starting in September, and then students completed the qualifying test. As a result of that, we had some internal competition on the Constitution within our school district. At Churchill Junior High School, for example, we had 8 sections that went into the verbal competition, and we had 6 sections up at the high school. They went into semifinal competition, and ultimately we had 1 junior high school team and 1 high school team that went against each other up at Smith School back on December 17th. The purpose of that competition was to determine which school and which team would represent East Brunswick in the district competition. The high school team emerged with a narrow victory over our 9th grade team and went on to face Phillipsburg Catholic and Morristown High School yesterday. In the competition at Middlesex County College, the students went into 3 different hearing rooms where they were presented with a series of questions. Several questions were known in advance by all of the participating schools, but then there were other questions that were spontaneous questions that the students had to respond to and that they were scored upon. And the scale was from a 1 to 5 per group on a criteria of 5 items. East Brunswick emerged with a very good victory in terms of the point totals, and now, as you said, they're going to be going on to face competition from the other congressional districts throughout the state. And it looks like the competition will be pretty tough, but I have a lot of confidence in these students. They've impressed me. I've seen them 4 times now, from the first round of competition all the way up through this final round, and I really believe if they put their hearts and minds and souls into it, that we might end up with a team going to Washington, D.C.
Yes, that would be very exciting, and I really consider it a privilege to have been able to be at the competitions at Churchill within our own district and then at Middlesex, and I must say that our students were really magnificent. They had a tremendous factual knowledge of the Constitution, but then they were able to apply it to questions that they didn't know anything about in advance, and they're also really articulate and very poised, and I think that they were really great. So I think we probably will win in Washington.
We're looking forward to a good try in the state competition.
And I think you deserve tremendous compliments for having it so well organized. It really ran very smoothly, and I know it was very difficult. Besides, you chose, I think, probably the only day in January that we didn't have terrible weather for the competition. So thank you for being here, and good luck in Trenton on March 25th and whenever the competition in Washington is.
Thank you.
Okay, and thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon with more school news.
Hello, my name is Prahba Sucamaren, and I am a 9th grader at Churchill Junior High School, and I will be presenting this week's comment on the Constitution. My topic is the Philadelphia Convention. This was one of the most important meetings held in Americans' history. Many of the delegates chosen were of an old age. They were called the Founding Fathers. Some of the people selected were George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and Jonathan Dayton. Benjamin Franklin was the eldest man to sign the Constitution, and Jonathan Dayton was the youngest. So the small states contributed 5 delegates: Father Sherman, William Patterson, William Livingston, Samuel Johnson, and John Dickinson. Many of the great men of this nation did not attend, like Thomas Jefferson and John Adams. During the convention, they discussed what the government should be. In the year 1787, they finally came up with a strong central government. They had written the many rules that the people should obey. This became known as the Constitution of the United States of America. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to Consumer Aware. I'm Adrienne Eisner, Director of the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. Today we're going to be talking about the East Brunswick Township Cable Franchise Renewal. The Township is now in process of conducting franchise renewal procedures for cable television in accordance with federal and state law. This process begins 30 to 36 months before the expiration of the current franchise agreement. Our expiration date with Stora Cable Communications is January 17, 1990, which means that we are now within that 30 to 36 month period. The actual procedures will be carried out by the township, but they are clearly defined by the state and fall under the authority of the Office of Cable Television in the Board of Public Utilities. The Consumer Affairs Office is coordinating all aspects of the evaluation procedures, which include technical analysis, complaint record analysis, financial analysis, a community survey, public hearings, and preparation of the municipal report. The first phase consists of proceedings to assess the municipality's future cable-related needs and to review the past performance of the cable operator. The township newsletter, which every resident will receive during the third week in January, has a cable subscriber questionnaire on page 4, which we are asking you to fill out and return to the Consumer Affairs Office. It is important that you take this opportunity to let us know your opinion of the quality of service you are receiving from Stora and also the programming and changes you would like to see in the future. All responses and recommendations will be given careful consideration. Please take advantage of this opportunity and take a few minutes out to complete this questionnaire. In the spring, the township will be holding public hearings, which will provide yet another opportunity for the public to participate. If you have any further questions about cable television or the cable subscriber questionnaire, please contact us at the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. We are located in the East Brunswick Municipal Building, and our office hours are from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. Call us for further information. Thank you for joining me on Consumer Aware. See you again next time.
At Monday night's council action meeting, several ordinances about zoning and transportation were amended. From now on, developers will have to provide the planning board proof that land up for subdivision is free of wetlands. This in response to strict wetland regulations passed down by the state. And commuters using township parking facilities are now faced with a $5 hike for monthly permits. For East Brunswick residents, monthly parking costs will be $15 at the Transportation and Commerce Center and $20 a month at the new Exit 9 facility. Non-residents will be charged $40 a month. Also adopted was an ordinance establishing speed limits for shopping center parking lots. Some Route 18 malls will be required to post 15-mile-per-hour speeds on their lots. The Council and the Department of Public Safety hope these speeds will reduce the number of accidents in parking lots. And in the public portion of the meeting, residents continued to ask questions about the completion and improvements of roads in the township. Will one-way signs be posted on some of Frost area roads? And when will better lighting be installed along the new riders' lanes? The council asked the administrator to follow up these questions. Also during the public portion, former Democratic Councilman Michael Baker questioned the all-Republican council's methods of choosing township auditing firm. During his council term, Baker served on a bipartisan committee which established an objective process for choosing an auditor. The new Republican council ignored this process and hired a firm who Baker says may have political connections. But Councilman Sinagra and Kirk said the auditor was praised by the township's treasurer as doing an extremely thorough job. According to law, the council may choose any auditor it believes is most competent. Councilman Louis Becker, who served on the audit committee with Baker, agreed with the Democrat that this council's process was inappropriate. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.
Accordingly, I'm announcing today that I do not intend to seek the Democratic nomination or election as mayor in 1988. I'm ready to devote my energies and attention to other things, and I'm making this decision known at this time in order to allow for all who might be interested in the nomination to come forward and seek the support of the East Brunswick